Hello and welcome to another Cliff Reviews Art House. This time I'm reviewing the film The Ice Tower, directed by Lucile Hadžihalilović. This is a very weird film, but I was expecting it to be weird. I'd seen her previous film, Earwig. In fact, I reviewed it a while back on the channel. I really admired it, but it's very weird. And it's not a comfortable watch. And this wasn't a letdown. It's not a film that you enjoy as such, but I think that both of her films demonstrate that this is an amazing filmmaker. The Ice Tower is a film about longing and identity. At face value, it's a dark fairy tale, but I think you could call it a psychological horror. There were several times where I was reminded of David Lynch. The surreal atmosphere certainly invites this comparison, particularly because much of the story unfolds on a film set, and the borders between reality and fantasy dissolve in the same way that they do in Inland Empire. I don't think she's copying Lynch. Both this film and Earwig feel unique, like Hadžihalilović is creating something really original. One big difference is that Lynch usually threads a spiritual current beneath the terror. This film denies that comfort and leaves the viewer trapped in a frozen world with no path out of it. The story revolves around Jane, a teenage girl who's lost her mother and lives in foster care. She's vulnerable, she's suggestible, and she's in search of herself, really. She's one of three females in the film, plus the Snow Queen. Each of the females is placed higher on a kind of imagined ladder of female identity. The small girl looks up to Jane, Jane looks up to Christina, and Christina reaches towards the Snow Queen. Each woman desires something from the next, and none receives what she seeks. The result isn't a chain of love, but a kind of chain of absence. Jane is the true heart of the film. Her life is marked by loss and the fear of not knowing who she is. She invents fantasies to fill the gaps that real life has left open. The Snow Queen is kind of the ultimate figure of hope, and Christina becomes the glamorous adult that Jane thinks she wants to become. The child becomes the dependent who makes Jane feel needed, and Jane is building a fairy tale world because the real one has failed her. It glitters, but it actually offers no warmth. In a completely different context, someone recently mentioned a Welsh word to me, hiraeth. Hiraeth has no English equivalent. It describes a deep longing for something that can never be recovered. It's not simple nostalgia, it's a yearning for a home that you can't return to. This word perfectly describes the emotional landscape of the Ice Tower. Jane is driven by a longing that has no clear object. She wants her mother back, but she also wants the idea of a mother. She wants a sense of safety, but she never has really had it. She wants a future version of herself that feels whole. Christina becomes a symbol of that fantasy, and the Snow Queen becomes the impossible ideal behind it. Jane's entire journey is shaped by a desire that can never be satisfied because it's actually built from absence. That is hiraeth in its purest form. It's heartbreaking cinema, but it has a real authenticity and dramatic impact. Christina is the most unsettling figure in the story. She's brilliantly played by Marion Cotillard. She is perhaps giving us an insight into Jane's possible future. She's taken her own childhood wounds and covered them with a crafted personality. Her identity comes from the roles that she plays as an actor, but clearly she's very unhappy in herself. These are literally just roles. She is performing the Snow Queen in the film within the film. The coldness and the brutality of the Snow Queen seems to have been absorbed by Christina, but Jane sees only the glamour. She doesn't yet understand the cost. Christina is both a mentor and a warning. She can appear kind, yet her behavior is manipulative and at times abusive. She repeats the same trauma that shaped her, now from a place of adult power. The ice rink is a really compelling image that comes up a number of times in this film. I love this, although I'm not certain what it means. It feels like it's a strong symbol of something. Perhaps the ice literally links the myth of the Snow Queen with Jane's real life. But its significance goes further, I think. Perhaps it's the place where fantasy feels possible, but at the same time, there is something unsafe and unsettling about the ice ring. I think that the ice tower could be described as a study in fantasy as a coping mechanism. Jane builds imaginary structures to replace the family she's lost, but the film shows how brittle those structures are. On one level, this is a kind of horror film, but the horror isn't rooted in any monster or violence threat. It's rooted in the fear that the inner world we construct can't protect us from the outer world that shapes us. The Snow Queen is not a supernatural figure. She's the symbol of Jane's longing, a figure that promises perfection but delivers despair. The film is visually striking and its atmosphere is hypnotic, yet it remains emotionally cold. It withholds transcendence and it gives the viewer only dread. That is the point, I think. It's a portrait of a girl who's been left without love and searches for it in reflections and illusions. The film understands that fantasy can be both seductive and destructive. The Ice Tower is like a nightmare fairy tale. It's weird in a really good way, but totally convincing and very compelling. The acting is amazing. It has the language of a myth, the style of a dream, and the soul of a horror story. It's chilling, precise, and deeply unsettling. I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.